Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to start chapter 2, a very profound, very powerful chapter. I'm very glad that you all could make it to the inauguration of this chapter. So before we begin, I'll say a quick prayer to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Hare Krishna. So today we will introduce everyone to chapter 2, and we will also cover the first 3 shlokas of chapter 2. So I was thinking maybe we start with shloka recitation and the translation. Anika, are you there? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Do you have the shloka and the translation with you?
Yes, Guruji.
So you can do the first 3 shlokas. You can recite the shloka and also the translation.
Okay, Guruji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Verse 2.1 Sanjaya Uvacha Tam tata kripayavishtam Ashrupurna kulekshanam Vishidantam mitam vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna overwhelmed with pity, his mind grief-stricken, and his eyes full of tears, Shri Krishna spoke the following words. Verse 2.2 Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalam Mitam Vishame Samupastitam Anaya Jushtamasvargyam Akirti Karamarjuna. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, how has this delusion overcome you in this hour of peril? It is not befitting an honorable person. It leads not to the higher abodes, but to disgrace. Verse 2.3 Klaipyam asmagamah partha naitattvayupapadyate Shudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvotishtah parantapa. O Partha, it does not befit you to yield to this unmanliness. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O vanquisher of enemies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for the melodious recitation. So let's start the journey. This journey from despair to divine wisdom. And I would say the highlight of this particular part of second chapter is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So it's a very powerful concept in our scriptures, and you will see how that is happening here in the Bhagavad Gita. So everyone who has your journals, please keep taking some notes, because this chapter pretty much has, you will see how important this chapter is. So we all saw in the first chapter how, Arjuna, the great warrior, so strong, he had defeated countless armies, countless battles, but now he's all lost, he's confused, he's all shaken up. He has tears in his eyes, his hands are shaking. Now here is where, instead of looking at it as the end of everything, we said how that is the beginning of real wisdom to get in. So Arjuna, here what is happening, I don't know if you know, but as documented in the scriptures, once Arjuna had defeated even Lord Shiva. See how powerful a person we are talking about. And that person went through such a mental trauma. So, why we are repeating this part is, even if it can happen to Arjuna, what are we? So, such trauma can always happen to us. We can very easily feel lost and confused and shaken up. It's very possible. That is why this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita applies to all of us. The turning point here is Arjuna says, I admit that I don't know. I admit that I don't know what is right. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Help me. See, even in modern society, if somebody does not ask for help, it is considered impolite if you go and forcefully help somebody. I hope you all have witnessed this at some point or other. Sometimes people just want to do things by themselves. We shouldn't be going and imposing ourselves upon them. No, let me help you. No, they are not asking for help. Just like that, divine knowledge comes when we seek. And Arjuna here is seeking. So we will see later in 2.7 where Arjuna will say, Sishyasteham, he says, I am a student, and then the whole teaching will start. You will also see that this is the moment when Krishna is also addressed as Bhagavan for the very first time in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's not kind of coincidence, because as we just discussed, the divine teacher will appear when the student is truly ready. And right now, Arjuna is ready. In what way is he ready? His tears. His tears have washed away his ego and pride. His tears have dissolved his ego and pride. So now he has created space in his heart for divine grace to enter. Many times this is the purpose of some of the greatest calamities that happen in our lives, is to open ourselves up for something divine, the divine grace to enter. So the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is also termed as Sankhya Yoga. I told you in the last chapter that every chapter will be some yoga. So chapter 2 is Sankhya Yoga. And this is where Sri Krishna will start explaining things very categorically. A lot of acharyas have said that this chapter is like the crux. This chapter is like the essence. And this is a chapter where you all know that Krishna used to be friendly to Arjuna. You all know that Arjuna used to call Krishna as Sakha, a friend. But here is where the transition happens. From a friend, now he becomes a guru. He becomes a teacher. So does it mean that Krishna transformed into a guru? No, it just means that Arjuna is now transformed into a student. Krishna was always a guru. He is always a Jagat Guru. But as long as Arjuna only saw a friend, Krishna came across as a friend. The moment Arjuna was ready to be a student, Krishna came across as a guru. This is very, very important. There are some key terms that I would like to call out in advance, so you can take note of it. And we will be discussing these terms in this chapter. One term we just spoke about, Sankhya Yoga. The Sankhya Yoga basically is the path of discriminative knowledge. It is the path of seeing reality in a very objective way. That is Sankhya Yoga. Then we will talk about terms like Purusha and Prakriti, where Purusha is that eternal witness, the eternal consciousness. And one key aspect of Purusha is it is never changing. Whereas Prakriti is the material nature. And Prakriti is ever changing. So we're going to study the never changing and also the ever changing. And we will also come across a very interesting word, Sthita Pragya. So Sthita Pragya basically means one who is established in consciousness, divine consciousness, regardless of the circumstances. So Krishna will go on and explain why it is very important for all of us to reach that stage. And so again, this is introduction to Sankhya. So I just want to give you a brief context on what Sankhya is all about. So there are 6 orthodox schools in Indian philosophy. So in Indian I'm saying Indian, that is the best word I can use now. We can say Hindustani, we can say Bharatiya, but they all are the same. But so our philosophy is very broadly, if you look at it, very broadly classified into Astika and Nastika. Astika means philosophies which believe in the Vedas, and Nastika means philosophy that rejects the Vedas. They don't believe in the Vedas. It's not that they say Vedas is wrong, they just think that their philosophy is different. For example, Nastika is the schools like Buddhism, Jainism, they all come under the Nastika branch of philosophy. But now we are focusing on the Astika. And I can talk about the Astika school. The Astika schools, there are basically 6 schools of Astika philosophy. So I will quickly talk about what those 6 are. The first one is called Nyaya. So that school of philosophy was founded by sage Gautama, and it is all about logic and reasoning. So they want to have a logical answer to every problem. That is Nyaya. The second school is Vaisheshika, and that was developed by sage Kannada. And this is a school of atomism and categorization. So you may not believe, but the whole concept of atoms, it has been documented in our scriptures thousands of years ago. Although modern sciences started documenting it only in this century, we have been talking about atoms. So one of the interesting concepts of Vaisheshika school of philosophy, it says that the universe consists of a finite number of atoms. That is how they come across. And then they say everything that is visible, they are all made of finite set of atoms. And then they go into categorization, how they categorize that and all of that. So that is Vaisheshika. Just interesting tidbit. In some many languages, a thing is called as padartha. We say padartha. And that is coming from this school of philosophy, Vaisheshika. That is one of the ways they categorize things. The third school of thought is Sankhya. Sankhya was founded by sage Kapila, and this is basically the school of dualism. So we have non-dualism and we have dualism. So Sankhya is talking about how to perceive reality as dualism. So Purusha and Prakriti, for example, that is a dualistic concept where we separate Purusha from Prakriti. We won't go too much in details. We will go deeper whenever it is required. Now I'm just giving you a gist. The fourth school is the school of yoga. So when we say yoga, we are talking about yoga as defined by sage Patanjali, the Ashtanga yoga. So that school talks about how to go about self-realization through a disciplined approach of Ashtanga yoga. The fifth school of thought is philosophy is Mimamsa. Mimamsa was founded by Jaimini, sage Jaimini, and this is all about rituals and duties. Like some of you may already have heard me talk about the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, which talks about rituals. So Mimamsa talks a lot about those rituals and duties. And then the sixth school of philosophy is Vedanta. It was started by sage Badarayana. So this is the school of the knowledge of ultimate reality. So if you see the word Vedanta, it consists of 2 words, Veda and Antha. So Antha is end. So Vedanta actually means end of Vedas. So they are focusing on what is the goal of Vedas, what is the end goal of Vedas, that is Vedanta. So all the Upanishads and Brahma Sutras, they are all part of that. And they will focus a lot on Advaita Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, and Dvaita Vedanta. So they look at all aspects. So Advaita means non-dualism. I am not separate from God. Vishishta Advaita means I am like God, but I am not God. But, it's like the middle path. Whereas Dvaita is I am different, God is different. So at a very, very high level, this is what are the 6 schools of thoughts. So interesting question for all of you. Which school of thought do you think Bhagavad Gita belongs to? You can chat, you can use the Zoom chat. I'm not asking this particular chapter. I'm asking Bhagavad Gita in general. Which school do you think it is a part of? I see people are chatting. They are typing things here. Okay. Excellent. So it looks like a lot of people already know. Okay. So Apurvaji thinks it is Sankhya. So it's not, because it talks about Sankhya, but Bhagavad Gita itself is not just Sankhya. Okay, Vikas ji, okay, let us ask. One of the first one was coming from Smita Srinivas says Advaita. Yes, Advaita is a part of the philosophy, but the right answer is Vedanta. So Vikas ji, you want to say why it is Vedanta? Do you have any additional insights you want to add?
Okay, hi. So I thought it was Vedanta because it is end of Veda, and the Gita basically helps us to kind of get beyond a particular concept or get beyond a particular thing. It in my thought it was like it helps you understand what the whole thing is. It helps you kind of put everything into perspective, in a
Excellent.
simplistic way. So that is
Very,
why I thought it
very,
was Vedanta.
very nicely said. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. You are very right. So the Bhagavad Gita, along with the Upanishads and Brahma Sutras, it comes under the school of Vedanta. And Krishna will talk about Advaita, he will talk about Dvaita, he will talk about Sankhya, and he will integrate all of these concepts. As Vikasji rightly said, Krishna will try to take us to the end goal of all the Vedas, end goal of all the knowledge of the Vedas. That is what Bhagavad Gita is part of. Excellent. So we have to understand that what we are going to study is not just a philosophy, it is kind of medicine for the soul. So a lot depends on how we approach these teachings. If we approach it methodically, with discipline, with humility, with consistency, it is guaranteed that your life has to go through a radical transformation for the better. Okay, it is not just knowledge. So let us see why this chapter is so crucial. This chapter has been called as the Mount Meru among Himalayan peaks. This chapter has 72 shlokas, so it is not just the longest chapter, it is also one of the most powerful chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and it has been called as the seed that contains the entire tree of the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. See, a lot of us have used GPS, right? So if you say where you want to go, you enter the coordinates in the GPS, you hit enter. The first thing it does is it shows you the overview, the route overview. It will tell you where you are starting, where you are ending, and it will give you an overview. And then you say, okay, now give me directions. Then it will go step by step directions, correct? Just like that, chapter 2 is like that overview, route overview, where Krishna will tell you what is your goal and how are you going to reach that goal, and he will summarize everything there. He will give you an idea of everything, and then from third chapter onwards, he will go step by step direction. For each of the concepts, he will go deeper and he will give you more clarity. So that is why second chapter is so important. The contents of Bhagavad Gita, they have been categorized, they have been grouped in many different ways by many different scholars. But one of the simple ways of grouping the Bhagavad Gita itself, I would say, one of the simplest ways to group it is, you can say the first chapter is Vyamoha. That means it is about crisis. It is about the problem. What is the problem? And chapter 2 talks about what should be the solution, the bija. But they just talk about what the solution is, but it's not going to go in details on how to actually solve it. And then chapters 3 to 17 is Vistara. Vistara means they elaborate. Krishna will elaborate and he will go into a detailed exploration of whatever he's covered in chapter 2. And chapter 18 we call as Sangraha. Sangraha means synthesis, the final synthesis or the final summary, however you want to call it. So it's one of the simplest ways to categorize Bhagavad Gita. So I'm setting expectations on how the chapter 2 is going to be and then what to expect after that. So as we just discussed, Bhagavad Gita belongs to Vedanta. What that means is Vedanta, it does not reject any of the views of any of the schools. So we have 6 schools we spoke about. Vedanta will not say any of them is wrong, and Vedanta at the same time will not say only one of them is right, or there is no bias. Because Sri Krishna will take ideas from all of these schools and he will integrate all of that beautifully. And he's starting with Sankhya. So he wants to explain the fundamental discrimination between consciousness and material nature, Purusha and Prakriti. And I will tell you why. Why Krishna is picking Sankhya. Because what is the state of Arjuna? Arjuna is in total confusion. Arjuna is in total distress. No, he's in fear. He's nervous. He's confused. He doesn't know. He's like, what am I supposed to do? I see friends. I see relatives. I see loved ones in front of me. So this is a time where Krishna has to give him some very objective and concrete answers. And that is what Sankhya is all about. Sankhya is a very objective take on reality. And that is why Krishna starts the second chapter by explaining Sankhya. You will see, when we go deeper into Sankhya, you will see why exactly Krishna is doing this. It's a very, very beautiful, profound chapter. So we spoke about categorization of Bhagavad Gita itself. Now we will look at the categorization of chapter 2 itself. How is chapter 2 grouped? Because it's such a big chapter, I want to give you an idea of how you can group the chapter. So the first topic in second chapter is Arjuna Sharanagati. That is the total surrender of Arjuna. That is what we will see from verse 1 to verse 10. And again, don't mistake this word. Sharanagati here does not mean defeat. Sharanagati means the beginning of victory. Because that's where we are surrendering to a bigger force. We are surrendering to the Lord. So that is the start of victory. The second topic is Jnana Yoga. Jnana is part of Sankhya only, but specifically Jnana Yoga, that will be verse 11 to 38. And that's where Krishna will talk about the wisdom of our eternal nature and why we never die, why we are never born. All of those concepts come in 11 to 38. The third topic, Krishna will talk about Karma Yoga or Yoga of Action. That will come from verse 39 to verse 53. And the fourth topic is Sthita Pragya Lakshanani, where what are the traits of a Sthita Pragya? What are the traits of those who are steady of mind and wisdom? You see, these are such profound topics. We spoke about 4 powerful topics, and Krishna is bringing all of them into one chapter. And that is why this chapter is very, very powerful. One another interesting tidbit I want to pass on is this word Sthita Pragya. It's a very beautiful word, but although we say that Bhagavad Gita is part of Vedanta, you will not find the word Sthita Pragya in any Veda or the Upanishads. That word Vyasa has coined it specifically for the Bhagavad Gita. Where sthita means established, and pragya means wisdom or consciousness. So sthita pragya is somebody who is established in wisdom and consciousness, and who is steady in wisdom and consciousness. So here is where the teaching begins, from tears to transformation. And a very profound truth here is, I will be very I won't say repetitive. I will keep on encouraging you to use your journal more and more, because we are beginning a very, very profound set of teachings, and everything that we note down, and if we revisit it, that's what is going to make a big impact in our lives. So the first major profound concept that Krishna tells us is, the more we grow spiritually, the more fearless we will become. And that is one of the messages Krishna gives here. And paradoxically, the more fearless we become, the more compassionate we become. See, being fearless is 2 types. There are 2 types of people who are fearless. The first type, they don't know anything. Like, Let us say there is a grenade. They don't even know it is a grenade. So they are not afraid. they are not afraid to go touch it. That's because they are ignorant. The second type of fearlessness is those who know everything. A person who has wisdom. They know what a grenade is. They know how to handle it safely. They know what kind of mistakes will make it blow up. So they know it. So they can handle it confidently. See, these two ends of the spectrum, there is no fear. All fear lies in the middle. That is pretty much all of us. We are neither completely ignorant, nor are we full of wisdom. We are in the middle. And that is why we get confusion. That is why we get fears. So Krishna says, the more we advance spiritually, the more fearless you become. And when you become fearless the right way, the wise way, then we also become compassionate. Very beautiful lesson. The another thing I want to point out is a lot of people with half knowledge, they say that, Bhagavad Gita means they are talking about war. It's a book on war. It is not a book on war, because after chapter 1, you will not find the word war in the Bhagavad Gita at all. So Bhagavad Gita is not about how to shoot properly, or how to drive a chariot effectively, or how to shield from weapons. That's not what a Bhagavad Gita is. So there is no mention of war at all in the rest of Bhagavad Gita. The real battle that Krishna talks about, the real battle he is trying to help us win, is the battle within us. So the real Kurukshetra is within us, and that is what Krishna is going to make us understand. So before we begin and talk about the real teaching now, I want to share another thing. It is a repetition again, that we are going to receive Krishna's wisdom, but if we have to receive Krishna's wisdom the way it was meant to be, then we have to become like Arjuna. The more we become like Arjuna, the more the wisdom will help us the way it helped Arjuna. You see, what does it mean to become like Arjuna? First, Arjuna is very honest about his confusion. Do we have the honesty? When we are confused, when we are in despair, do we have the honesty to admit that I am confused? Many times it's not easy for us to admit, because that ego and pride comes in the way. Second, Arjuna does not pretend. He does not pretend to know everything. Because if you think you know everything, then how can anybody teach you anything? The third and most important, Arjuna demonstrates complete surrender. Not a surrender of weakness, but surrender of faith. So it's like a child, when a child is jumping from a sofa or a table onto the hands of a parent, the child has complete faith. It knows that the parent is going to catch it, But that is surrender. That kind of surrender we are talking about, that Arjuna had. He had complete faith in Krishna. So when these three things come, then the knowledge will make sense the way it made sense to Arjuna. Krishna will repeatedly tell us that pride is the greatest obstacle on the path to spirituality. Because it is pride that prevents us from realizing the truth. It is pride that prevents us from seeking wisdom. So pride is a very big, strong enemy. We have to keep a watch on it, and we have to get it under control. So now let us look at the first sloka, 2.1, that Anika ji beautifully recited, where Sanjaya says, Sanjaya, now he's saying that Arjuna was overwhelmed with pity. His mind was grief-stricken, and his eyes were full of tears. Seeing this, Sri Krishna spoke the following words. So Sanjaya is a very honest and very efficient interpreter. So he is interpreting what is happening in the battlefield, word to word, accurately. The word he used is very interesting. He said, Kripaya Vishtam. So it is overwhelmed with pity. It's very crucial, because this is not a noble kind of compassion. It is a misplaced compassion, which has become poisonous, because Arjuna is not having compassion in the right way. Arjuna's compassion is based just on attachment and ignorance. So that kind of compassion usually is detrimental to everybody. There is a very powerful statement that I read, that compassion towards the cruel is cruelty towards the good and the innocent. It's a very powerful statement that tells us that our compassion also has to come from the right place. It has to be rightly placed. Like Napoleon very famously said, all the bad things in the world, they happen not because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good people. So there are a lot of lessons to be learnt, and that's what Krishna is going to help us understand. And also, you should see that here is where the word used to address Krishna is Madhusudana. As I said in chapter 1, the name used itself will give us a lot of context on what we are talking about, what the situation is. So, using the word Madhusudana to refer to Krishna is very loaded. And Srila Prabhupada, he explains that Arjuna is subtly requesting Sri Krishna to slay his doubts just like he slayed the demon Madhu. So Madhusudana means someone who slayed the demon Madhu. But you know what is very interesting? The very interesting part is Krishna avatar. When Krishna took the avatar, he didn't really kill Madhu. So then why is he being referred to as the slayer of Madhu, Madhusudana? Because it was Vishnu, Lord Vishnu in a previous incarnation. That incarnation was called as Hyagriva incarnation. In that incarnation, he had killed the demon Madhu. So, by addressing Krishna as Madhusudana, we are acknowledging that Krishna is Vishnu. We are acknowledging that Krishna is God incarnate. You see? So, the core teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, they start after first acknowledging and establishing that Krishna is incarnation of God. Krishna is incarnation of Vishnu. See, so powerful. See how these words, they are so important, and how we are supposed to understand them. And then comes the second sloka, very powerful sloka. See, here is where Arjuna is saying, I cannot think, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, my hand is shaking, my leg is shaking, I am crying. Arjuna is expecting Krishna is going to come and he's going to say, Oogie, Oogie, my baby, don't worry, He's expecting that Krishna is going to come and, pamper him and all. But what does Krishna do? Krishna says, Kutasva kashmalamidam vishame samupastitam anaryujishtam asvargyam kirtikaram Arjuna. He's shaking him up. He's giving him the shock treatment. He's saying, from where has this delusion overcome you in this critical hour? There is a war going to happen. Is this the time to behave like this? And he says, it is not befitting an honorable person. It does not suit you. It does not take you to higher abodes. It is only going to give you disgrace. This is not what Arjuna expected. Arjuna was expecting sympathy, right? But what did Krishna do? Shock treatment. In modern psychology, there is a word called pattern interrupt. And that is what Krishna has done here. And he used the word, you see, Kutasva kashmalam idam. Kashmalam is a very powerful word, because kashmalam means complete moral and spiritual contamination, a delusion that corrupts your entire being. But then you see what is very beautiful here. Although Krishna gives the shock treatment, the real beauty, if you see, is he is not condemning Arjuna. See, that is the mastery. He is diagnosing the problem, very surgical precision. And then he explains. He explains using 3 key terms. He says, Anaryujustam. Anarya. Anarya means not like Arya. Arya here does not mean a race. Arya means a nobility of character. For example, Lord Buddha also used the word Arya. He said Arya Satcha, which is the noble truths. So, in the same sense, Krishna is saying, this kind of behavior does not suit you. It is not an Aryan thing. The second thing he says, Asvargyam, is not going to give you higher planets or heaven either. And the third thing he says, Akirtikaram. Kirti means reputation, honor. Akirti means no reputation. You won't have any honor. See, we are talking about olden days. In olden days, honor meant a lot. It meant a lot to people, and especially to Kshatriyas, honor meant really life. So Krishna is saying this kind of behavior will not give you honor either. Now see, if you see the brilliance of Krishna's diagnosis, he is diagnosing it from three perspectives: spiritual, cosmic, and social. So beautiful. And then he says, the third sloka, which starts with Klaibyam masma gamaha, where he says, Partha, this does not befit you to yield to this unmanliness. See the word he is using, powerful word. Give up such weakness and arise, O vanquisher of enemies. Very, very beautiful. Shock treatment. See, and what Krishna is saying here? Krishna is saying, this kind of behavior does not suit you, Arjuna. What a profound teaching method. So Krishna is saying, you are better than this. So instead of just saying, you are a coward, or you are useless, or you are this, or you are that, Krishna is saying, this kind of behavior does not suit you. So inherently, he is telling Arjuna, you are much better. You are much stronger. You see how Krishna is coaching. This is a very powerful method that we should all use with our own younger generation who seeks guidance from us. Instead of scolding them, instead of making them feel bad about themselves, you talk about what is bad in their behavior and then tell them it does not suit them because they are better. This is the same thing. If you now focus on what there are a lot of terms in the Vedanta that people throw fashionably, like Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. What do those things say? They are using the same approach that Krishna used. So when somebody says, you are a spark of that divine, you are God, it is not to pump you up. It is not to make you get into the ego mindset that I am God. No. It is to say that all this ignorant behavior, all this ignorance, all this delusion, it's not you. It does not suit you because you are something, you are like God-like. So that really encourages us to go and realize that higher truth. So that is how Krishna is also approaching this. So our Bhagavad Gita, the way we approach it, we call it Pragmatic Gita. Pragmatic Gita means a very practical approach. Because of that, I am using the term pragma. So we have derived some pragmas or some very important tips, very important messages from Krishna. We call that pragmas, and incidentally, we have extracted 18 pragmas from the Bhagavad Gita. And this is the first pragma. Please write it down, underline it. This pragma could be the beginning of a life transformation for all of us. Okay. So the first pragma, recognize the saboteur within you. Don't give in to it, confront it, and vanquish it. See, what is happening to Arjuna is he has that saboteur sitting within him. That saboteur is now shaking him up. That saboteur is making him confused. That saboteur is telling him, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you see. And there is a saboteur like that inside all of us. So the first pragma from Krishna is be aware of that saboteur within you. Catch it, vanquish it. See, a saboteur is like a thief. What do you think a thief is most afraid of? You can chat again. I will see if somebody has any interesting answers. What do you all think a thief is most afraid of? Okay. You are right. I think a lot of us here, a lot of these people here, they all already know. Excellent. Almost a lot of people have said getting caught. Excellent. You're all right. The thing a thief is most afraid of is getting caught. So the saboteur within you is like a thief. And it is afraid of getting caught. Every time you catch it, it becomes less and less active. So all Krishna says is catch your saboteur. He's not saying control it. Even if you catch it, what does it mean, catch it? Whenever you have thoughts, I'll give you some examples. Like, have you ever had this inner voice that says you are not good enough? That's a saboteur. Have you had an inner voice that says, oh, you have always failed, you are a failure? There is this voice sometimes that says, why do you even want to try? Do you really think you're going to succeed? Have you not had these voices? At least once or few times in our lives, right? Or this voice that says, I'm going to be a little funny also here. This voice that says, don't turn on the camera because people will think you look bad or you look ugly. That's also a saboteur voice. Or a voice that says, everybody is going to laugh at you. Hide. These are all examples of a saboteur in action. What we need to do, catch it. Be aware of it. Don't react to it. If you hear a voice that says, oh, people are going to laugh at you, no, don't react to it and don't hide your face and go hide behind a curtain. Catch it and say, oh, this is my inner saboteur. Very powerful lesson, very important to all of us. So all we need to do is catch. Catch means be aware. Once we are aware, the saboteur will become less and less active. So you can see a lot of practical applications in modern life, like for example, in workplace. Let us say you are preparing for a very difficult, presentation, a challenging presentation or a difficult conversation. Usually a voice will come from within. I think you're going to mess up. Or, oh, I think people are going to ridicule you. I think people are going to find faults in this presentation. So many things come, But what should we do? Be aware of that, be mindful of that, catch the saboteur, and then use Krishna's same methodology and tell yourself, this kind of fear does not suit me. I will prepare well, I will just trust my abilities. If I am prepared, there is no way anybody is going to make fun of me. You see? This does not suit me. It's a magic word whenever you catch a saboteur. Tell it this. And then see how you are overcoming that saboteur very easily. Just like that in relationships, many times we avoid difficult conversations, because the inner saboteur either says you are not good enough, that means you deserve it, or I'm not good, I must be the one who is at fault, Jane do. Or why should I even try talking to my partner or my friend or my son or whatever? Why should I even try talking? I'm not going to make sense. That person is not going to listen to me. See, there's so much of murmur happening within. It doesn't even let you try. It doesn't even let you do what is the right thing to do. There again, tell it that this kind of behavior does not suit me. Because this kind of weakness does not serve anybody. I need to have the courage to be assertive. I need to have the courage to be honest. And I also need to be expressing my feelings with compassion. Can you be honest? Can you be courageous? Can you be compassionate? Then there is no way relationships are going to fail because of your mistakes. You see? And neither are you going to run away from confronting and facing the challenges in relationships. So very, very powerful lessons here. It's very difficult to put it all into one session or two sessions, but stay with us. Within a few sessions, I think all of these messages will become internalized. So now let us have a question for deep reflection. Now I'm going to give you questions. We have one question. Shalmali ji, you had a question? Yes, Shalmali ji.
Guruji, actually, I want to ask, the saboteur only will tell negative or also tell positive?
Oh, look at that. That is a very powerful
I
question
always
now.
get confused. Sometimes it is telling positive or negative. I couldn't guess. So that in that dilemma only, I do not try.
Okay. This is a very, very profound question. Thank you for asking this. Basically, she's saying, I hear a voice from within. Whatever voice I hear, is it always a saboteur? That is her question, right? So there are two kinds of voices that come from within us. One we call as intuition, and the other we call as a saboteur. And what is the difference between intuition and a saboteur? One comes from a place of fear and limitation, whereas one comes from a place of confidence and experience. Okay, for example, you want to cross a road. Intuition will say the road can be slippery because it just rained. Whereas a saboteur will say you are definitely going to fall. So don't cross. You see? So look at what is the voice telling you? Is the voice telling you something that limits you? Is the voice telling you something that makes you get into a mindset of fear? Then that is a saboteur. But if the voice is telling you something that will help you prepare, if the voice is telling you something, which is just data, that is intuition. This is how you can make a differentiation. Always listen to your intuition and always confront your saboteur. I hope that makes sense, Shalmali ji. Okay, thank you. So good question though. I really appreciate that. So let us now note down questions, and then we are going to have a small interesting exercise. So first question, what is your personal Kurukshetra? Wherever you are in life, are you facing a situation like Arjuna faced? Like, are you facing any situation where you feel confused and you feel nervous and you feel like, I don't know what to do? That is the first question. Okay, I hope you all noted it down, and then I'll come to the second question. Have you experienced your inner saboteur limiting you? Have you experienced your inner saboteur putting you in fear? And how have you dealt with it? That is the second question. The third is another very profound question I have for you. Let us say that Krishna comes in front of you, and Krishna points out a particular weakness in you and tells you that this does not suit you, my dear. This weakness of mind does not suit you. So you are better than that. Then what will shift within you? How will you approach, or how will you change your approach from that point onwards? So these are three powerful questions I have. You have noted it down, right? So now what we are going to do something interesting. We are going to create breakout rooms, and I will be putting random people in every breakout room. That way you also get to know your satsang a little better. And my request is, at least when you are in your breakout room, please try to keep your videos on so that your satsang can see you and you can talk with each other. And you can pick any one of these questions. Okay, or if you prefer, I can assign a question to every breakout room. Okay, give me a second. Let me see first how many breakout rooms we are able to make. So I think we can have 2, 3. Okay, we will have 6 breakout rooms. And I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to take your names and I'm going to tell you which room you are in and which question you're going to get. So please note that down. So breakout room 1 would be Deepali Varghese, Ekansh, Kiran, Rupal, Snehita, and Suchitra. If you heard your name, you are in room number 1 and you will take question 1. Okay. If you don't know your question 1, ask anyone else in your group. Hopefully somebody has noted down the question 1. Okay. Room 2 will be Apurva, Chitra, Manojji, Soumya, Suveksha, and Venkata. They are room 2. You will get question 2. And then room 3 will be Anika, Archit, Momita, Smita Subandh, Tanuja, and Vikas. And you will take question 3. Room 4, we have Asmita, Kenny, Praveen, Smita Srinivas, and Sonali. You will again get question 1. Room 5, Jyotiranjan Jena, Purva, Santosh KM, Shalmali, and Suchita. That is room 5. You will get question 2. And room 6, Asha, Krishna Subedi, Mansi, Simran, and Smile. You are going to get question 3. So basically, I'm rotating the questions. So I hope you all know your questions. Now I'm going to open your breakout rooms. You will all be taken to your own rooms, and you there get to talk with your small little groups. And you will take 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we will come back. Okay? You will all see an invitation. Please respond to the invitation so that you all go to your rooms. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome back. You have been teleported back to your main the main meeting. I hope you all were able to at least get to know your small groups, and this way we keep on, when you attend more sessions, eventually you will get to know everybody. And I hope you were all able to discuss and have a healthy discussion. So my request is, based on whatever you discussed, now go back and offline, write it down in your journal, whatever was the question and what was the answer, and feel free to, ask questions in the group. Okay, you don't have to disclose it to everybody here, but at least write it down. It's for your own. The answer is for you. And later on, if you feel like it, in one of the sessions, we can have somebody talk about their experiences. Okay. So did anybody have any questions or comments before we wrap up the session? Soumya-ji, you had a question?
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
So, based on your suggestion on how to find or how to try to find our inner Dhritarashtra, so I did some introspection like while before going to sleep. I discovered, and again, I'm not sure if it is humility or like maybe I'm sounding more like Arjuna. So, what happens is professionally, sometimes, like when I get a new role, I have all these solutions, like I have all the experience that is required to be successful in that role. But because it's a different setup in terms of country, sometimes I just assume that I don't know anything. And the other person who is talking beautifully, very confidently, despite knowing less things than me, I would just bog down, right? And because I bog down, then I take on stress. And because then I take on stress, I sort of counterbalance it by staying in the present, solving one thing at a time. However, then I start to question myself and my humility goes away. That's what I have experienced. Because then what happens is I'm not going to anybody with an empty cup. I would try to test the knowledge of the other person. And then I would decide, okay, if this person is something that I can gain some knowledge from. And that leads me to, I would say, be perceived as a person who is full of pride, I must say, or arrogance. So, and again, as I said, maybe I'm sounding like Arjuna. so I don't know, like any suggestions on how do I zero in on something? Because there are some things those that would change. I would say small things. Let's just say the way I could have responded back to some person or even to my family people, right? That won't have a very large or big effect on my life. That would have small incremental effects on my life. But some other things would have bigger effects in life. So how do I pick and choose, and how do I zero in on one or two issues that I might have, or the inner saboteur?
It's a good question, but what I would recommend is maybe go step by step and try to take one problem at a time, and then eventually you will see the other problems becoming lesser. So you said you are in a new country, so you feel like you don't know, and you feel like the other person knows, so you kind of bog down. So not knowing and acknowledging you don't know is fine. I think that is a virtue. But the problem is the fear of failure. That is what makes us get into further negative behavior. So if you get rid of the fear of failure and just address the knowing part very objectively, I think automatically the other problems will get alleviated to a big deal. And Krishna will talk more about these things when we go further. Correct? So we will try to get you a not just some magic tips, but we will try to get you a total transformation, Soumyaji. In a few more chapters. So, yeah. Mansiji, you wanted to ask something?
Hello, Hare Krishna Guruji. That was a really nice class, so thank you so much for that. I wanted to ask how we could overcome our inner saboteur. I don't know if I pronounced it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what we were trying to discuss is overcoming the saboteur. More than overcoming, you just catch the saboteur. The more you
Okay.
catch it, don't give in to it. So the chief of ISKCON today, his name is Radhanath Swami. So
Mm-hmm.
he wrote a small article where he said we all have a good dog and a bad dog within us.
Yes.
Okay. And which dog do you think gets stronger? It is the dog that you feed more.
Yeah.
So what does it mean
Tell
feeding a
what to
dog?
feed your mind.
Yeah. So for example, if you hear a negative voice and you listen to it and you react based on what it says, then it becomes stronger. So just like
Okay.
that, how do you overcome your saboteur? More than that, I will ask how do you make sure your saboteur doesn't get stronger by the day? Instead of making it stronger, you have to make it weaker. Okay, so every time you give in to your saboteur, it becomes stronger. Every time you catch it, it becomes weaker. And you keep making it
Okay.
weaker, one fine day the good dog will overcome the bad dog.
Right.
But it's a process. It's not a quick fix. You cannot do it overnight.
Yeah.
So thank you for the
I guess
question.
the real challenge would be to be able to compress those thoughts eventually.
Just catch those thoughts. You don't try to
Okay.
control them.
Okay. For now,
Just
I'll catch them.
be aware. Just tell yourself that no, this is my saboteur. This is not me.
Yes.
Somebody is saying, "Oh, you're going to fail in the exam." Say, "No, that is my saboteur. That's not me." Catch it. Catch
Okay.
it. Just do that for the immediate future. Just keep catching it. Don't try to control it. Just catch it,
Okay.
and it will automatically get weaker. So thank you for that question.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, then. Thank you, everyone. I think we have spent a lot of time today. I appreciate everybody's active participation. And we will continue the journey. The next session is also going to be very profound. We're going to talk about a lot of key teachings from Krishna that will help us in our daily lives. So, with that, Hare Krishna. See you all in the next session.